What is going on, you guys? Happy Tuesday afternoon? Yeah, Tuesday afternoon. Can tell it's a little hectic. Don't even know what day it is. Just playoff baseball going on. NHL starts tonight. Preseason NBA is still going on for my NBA grinders. And we're on to week 6 of the NFL season. I actually thought it was, this was regularly scheduled to be doing these best ball drafts pretty much every single day, trying to hit as many of these resurrection drafts on Underdog as possible before they close here or fill. It's 80. Let me just go ahead and share my screen right away. Is 84.6% full. So I imagine, we'll be closing in on filling here pretty quickly over the next couple of days. But yesterday was, it's been open for a couple of weeks, and there's been some interesting strategy and everything around these drafts, not only just in general for the fact that they're an in-season draft that starts in week 6, but also for the fact that after each game that we would have, we would get wild market shifts. Players that had a good game shoot way up. Players that had a bad game shoot way down. Now, we're not going to have any more games before this thing, locks. And we had kind of a crazy week 5 with some blow-up performances for sure. My guy Kyle Pitts, who is on the thumbnail, finally broke out, had a big game. It's up to the tight end 7 on the season from one game. Mark Andrews exploded. He was also going late in these drafts. And then we had a ton of injuries. I was looking before, right before this, totally random. This is not the injury I thought I would lead off with. But Quintez Cephas looks like he's out for the year. That was a random injury that I just noticed before this, so that's why I was on top of mind. Obviously, CEH just got put on IR today. Don't know exactly the severity of his injury, but CEH is on IR. Obviously, David Montgomery's still injured. Saquon Barkley got injured. Kind of remains to be seen what is going on with Dalvin Cook. I don't really know. I assume that he is. Dogs will tell us what's up with Dalvin. I assume that he, is going to be totally fine. But this is starting to get a little bit ridiculous with Dalvin, right? I mean, we missed 2 games already out of 5. It's certainly not ideal. And I'm not totally sold. This thing doesn't keep, being an issue for Dalvin. Tweet this out. 2 more. So I think those are some of the major, things to monitor, not just those guys, but kind of how we react in these last couple of days of this draft to these injuries. And it's the trickiest part, right? Because there's never really a perfect way to assess, especially when you have an injury. Like, let's take David Montgomery as an example. It's not season ending. This thing starts in week 6. He's already missed one of his games that we expected him to miss. What is he, 3 to 5 weeks? So how many, how far down do you push David Montgomery when he's going to miss part of this, but he's not going to miss the whole year? Conversely, how far up do you move Damian Williams when you're going to get a handful of good weeks, quote unquote usable weeks out of Damian Williams? It is absolutely it's not a science, right? Because there's also the issues with someone like David Montgomery not being fully healthy when he comes back, or maybe because he's coming back from an injury, the team is, kind of mixing in more Damian than they were before, right? There's so many variables that we just don't really know. I find that to be the trickiest part. And so maybe I don't know if this is laziness or not, but something I try to do is avoid a lot of these steamy guys. because it can absolutely be true that guys should, maybe Damian Williams should go much higher. I don't even know where Damian goes. We can take a look at him. 94th overall. For how many weeks are we going to get out of Damian Williams? Another one I'm interested in is seeing where Darrell Williams goes 136. Eric McKinnon 210. Okay, so that's a little bit more interesting. But you know what I mean? Where should these guys go? I don't think that there's an exact science to any of that. I did update for those trying to polish off some more of these resurrection drafts before they lock on Thursday. I did get updates in today. Underdog positional rankings, DraftKings, or excuse me, in NFL, we just have one ranking set, but I have both positional rankings, so you can kind of see more clearly than just the top 200, kind of where the guys are rack and stacked positionally. But then you also have a top 200 as well available for you, so you can kind of see. It's updated today for all the injuries and everything. I do have. I'm one not change to make, but one player I'm still kind of nibbling on, and that's CEH. I honestly don't know exactly where to put CEH. I know he's on IR, but I haven't even really seen where that stands. We can look that up right now, actually. Like where does Clyde Edwards-Helaire look to be returning? Sorry, just had to insanely loud ad play. Shout out Roto World. Shout out NBC Sports Edge for their insane ads. I thought my head was about to explode. I'm trying. This is just miserable. I talk all this time about Dalvin, and now I am going to take him, which is painful, but it is what it is. Let me look at these rankings really quick. Make sure I'm going off my own. Got JT. I do have JT over Najee, Chubb, and Swift, and Jefferson. Yeah. So JT is my next highest guy. Dalvin and JT. I really don't feel comfortable with Dalvin. I'm not going to lie to you. He is an uncomfortable click, but I mean, at the 1-2 turn, Dalvin, in theory, in a contest where he's healthy, we have seen how fantasy valuable whoever is playing running back for this team is, right? Madison, obviously, last week, and one other week. Dalvin, multiple weeks this year. Dalvin last year. And the injury concerns have pushed him down, obviously, to the 1-2 turn. So it just feels like at that point in the draft, it's a totally reasonable kind of buy low, if you will. R.I.P. King Coakley. I like that avatar, by the way. Profile pic, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, going through the process of updating these rankings in season is an interesting process, because you do have to. I kind of recommend it for anyone that wants to play these in season. Obviously, we're drafting for Underdog here today. DraftKings has new weekly contests every single week. And if you're doing those, not even just like doing your own rankings, but if you wanted to use these rankings that I'll be updating every Tuesday morning, going through them. I got the change log updated, so you'll be able to see every time that there's an update, a significant update. If I move a guy up one spot or whatever, I'm not gonna, or like I removed. If you remove a player entirely, like I removed Quintez Cephas, I'm not gonna mention every single person that impacted, obviously, right? but kind of seeing the ebbs and flows and seeing where you might put like people in this like David Montgomery situation. Like, how do you value them? And like physically going through the process of thinking about that, I found it to be super like helpful for me in making these decisions, putting that rankings together. I know, man. It's really so. It's funny that you bring that up because I obviously I'm doing a lot of draft streams right now. We're right in a pretty good draft season between these in-season NFL contests and NBA starting next week. And so, I got to space them out a little bit. And so like doing 2 today, and like I recorded a podcast, I recorded a video. It's been a lot like a jam-packed day getting the rankings and everything going. And so I have to do this in the afternoon, obviously, right? It's almost 5 o'clock here in the central time zone. Well, by this time of the day, when I got to do streams at this time of the day, the dogs are wound up, and they go crazy on just about every stream that I've ever done, as you guys probably know if you've watched before. They go crazy pretty much any stream, but at this time of day, good luck. There's nothing I can do. There's absolutely nothing I can do. They're Husky German Shepherd mix dogs. They're 5. And you think that they're 5 months with the amount of energy that it's never ending energy. And by this time of day, I usually have taken them for a walk earlier in the day, but like today, I wasn't able to take them for a walk. So I hope you're ready for a lot of, not a lot of NFL talk, but lots of dog barks and maybe some dogs playing or something like that on the stream. I'm sure that's what you tuned in for. Seriously, though, I did find probably about this part of the draft to be like maybe the most interesting part to me. Like, look at this. I mean, Calvin Ridley at the end of the 3rd round. And there he goes. And I'm not even saying he shouldn't go there. Hold on, let me double check the rankings again. I think I have AJ. Yeah. AJ Brown and Amari, I think. Sorry, I'm still trying to get used to these. Yes, AJ Brown and Amari. Still trying to latch on to these rankings. It's very tough. We talked about this on every stream, I think, with the resurrection drafts, like just how uncomfortable I feel. So I'm trying to make sure to use my own process, use my own rankings, and at least early in these drafts. But I think that this part of these drafts, it opens up so fast, right? Like in the off season, we were doing these drafts, and to be like, okay, I know who I like here at the, anywhere from what there was a tier of like maybe Amari Cooper or something like that as a wide receiver in like that 3rd-ish round, somewhere in that area. We kind of understood these different little pockets of the draft, and now, like you say, there's like I'm also not behind Cordero Patterson. I have him as my running back 17, which is actually what we have here. But I have him like way beyond this, like a 5th round pick. And I think that's too high, but I'm kind of trying to not be like way outlandish to consensus on all of these rankings. So like I've pulled them up a little bit because of that. But you have these situations where the market got so efficient, especially here on Underdog in the off season, that like every kind of draft pocket made sense. And there were the guys you liked there, the guys you didn't like there, whatever. But every draft pocket really made sense. And some of these ADPs don't necessarily make sense to me because it's really funny that Kyle Pitts goes there at the 409 because he was I think the last draft we did, I think I drafted him. I can't remember. In the last draft stream we did, and he went like the 6th round, and now he has a good game against the freaking Jets without Ridley. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited. I was excited for Kyle Pitts. He's on the freaking thumbnail. But it's just funny that like it shouldn't take that to change these players' ADPs that much. Yeah. It's kind of I don't know what is going, like, I guess the down week this week really got, I know like some of the injury and stuff like that got people down on AJ Brown, but that also feels like a really steep drop for AJ Brown. I just think in general, maybe, and I'm not trying to oversimplify, and you'll see if you go look at my rankings, I have moved a lot of guys around, but not as much, I don't think, as the market has on many guys. I have reacted swiftly to certain situations that I think require us to do so. But I think that, like, in general, it's probably 80% overreaction, maybe 20% appropriate reaction, something like that. I mean, it's something like that. If I'm ballparking, use the old 80-20 rule. Yeah, that like he was put into, the nut spot basically. No Julio, an amazing matchup. Didn't get any of the touchdowns and just couldn't convert some of his targets from Ryan Tannehill. What happens if he caught 2 touchdowns this week? Where does he go? And that again, it shouldn't change anything. Like, and maybe it should change something a little, right? Like the Kyle Pitts thing. I'm not saying that he shouldn't go earlier than he went on Friday, but we shouldn't be having 2-round swings based on one result, unless like there was an injury or something dramatically changed. And I guess part of Kyle Pitts is that they did finally feed him, but also Calvin Ridley was out. And so it's just a market that is super, super interesting because of these reactions. And trying to appropriately assess how to react is tough. It's really, really tough. I do feel like I'm going to, unless OnStar here takes him, I do feel like I might end up with a good bit of Dak to close out here. I find the market seems to be, really out on Dak. Oh, man. Thinking about Kittle here, though. It might fry my brain. Obviously, Kittle is injured, and I do have Kittle moved down, but I have him right around here where he is going. And I hate all these running backs. Let's take Dak, and let me look at these receivers. Yeah, I have Kittle a lot lower than this. Oh man, that is such a tough decision. I'm still gonna take Kittle, even though he's on IR. If Kittle comes back in this, we missed one of the weeks. One of the IR weeks, so obviously going to be missing him short term. I am going to think about kind of how to approach tight end because of that. But I just feel like getting George Kittle, 6th round George Kittle, missing 2 weeks, trying to think that through, right? Like the upside is just... And maybe people don't agree given what we've seen so far with the 49ers and Kittle, but like, oh man, we know what the schedule looks like, especially like the playoff schedule. And if you can just get there in a tournament like this, and then you get George Kittle kind of as your hammer, this guy was going at the 2-3 turn, and now, he should go later because he's injured. But I think I still feel like he's a pretty strong, like 6th or 7th rounder. What I will say about this, I reviewed my best teams and don't know which strategy is best. The thing about that I always try to kind of like reiterate is that, well, reviewing, right, we're through 5 weeks. You would expect that teams that have earlier running backs would be doing better so far because they start off the year healthy, right? The thesis behind hero running back and zero running back type builds is the fragility of the running back position over the course of the year, and kind of what you get, and the not like week to week stability, but the stability of elite wide receivers over the course of a season in general, right? And what you can gain from the later round running backs because of that fragility of the position. So anyway, people will look at their early results and say, oh man, I have X amount advancing, or I have X amount scoring a ton of points or whatever. And it's like, well, if you drafted all robust running back teams, this year may not be the world's best example for that because of all the injuries we've had already. But, you get my point. Early running back should be doing better early in the year. It's harder for them to stay healthy. Plus, not even just like even early running backs, like let's say Zeke, can stay healthy all year, but your opponents can find Damian Williams, Alexander Madison, Chuba Hubbard, Samaje Perine, Kenny Gainwell, the Bills guys. The list goes on and on, right? So like you didn't draft Tyreek Hill. Your opponent has Tyreek Hill and a running back coming close to what Zeke is doing. So it's this constant back and forth. And so early, I try not to think too much about it early in the year. But the other thing is, even if you do want to like start to think about that, it is, don't get too anchored to what is working, right? And say that that's like better strategy or the worst strategy. I think that that's going to be a flaw. Like, I can't wait until next draft season, actually. I'm not trying to wish away the season, but I can't wait till next draft season, because whatever wins this year, whatever is most successful, we're going to overreact to that. Maybe zero RB wins everything this year. I don't know. But if it does, people are going to be like, just like what happened this year, right? Herzig won the big underdog tournament last year with a robust RB team, and robust RB won a lot. That's the guy who won on Drafters had it. We never got to see what happened on DraftKings, but it was wildly successful strategy, going heavy running back early. But like, that doesn't. The strategies are the strategies because they win when certain permutations of the season play out, right? And like, that doesn't mean like zero running back could be an amazing strategy and not win for the next 5 years. Robust running back could be an amazing strategy and not win for the next 5 years. It doesn't mean it's not plus EV. It just means that the results didn't play out that particular, variation of the season. This is kind of interesting. I didn't realize Zach Moss was going this high. I am going to take Odell, however. I actually have Damian Harris over Moss, I think. Let me look at this. I do. I have 2 running backs, though. What am I doing? So my next receiver up is Visca. Oh, no. Running out of time. And that Visca does not feel like a comfortable click either. But alas, another Visca share to take to my grave with $0 coming back. Have some zero running back teams smashing, robust, hyper-fragile hero. At this point, it seems like it comes down to having. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is, we haven't had the season, right? If you have Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, it's like largely like Mike Williams, Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, something like that, whatever variation around those kinds of players on that team, you're probably doing well. But there's plenty of time for other guys to catch up, and structure wins out over the course of a season. We haven't got to bye weeks yet, right? Poorly structured teams start to lose in bye weeks and over the course of the season because you can't sustain you happen to stumble across Cup, Mike Williams, whatever, the nuts, right? Because you can't sustain if you constructed your team poorly. It's not that they can't win. It's possible that they win. But in theory, over the course of a season, once the bye weeks and everything get here, that's when structure really starts to matter. So if you drafted running backs early and you took 7 of them, like you start to lose in these weeks because you're going to give up so many points. Not only because you just like don't have like enough of the positions you need to have enough of, but like everybody has injuries. How many teams do you have that don't have a single player hurt? You just have to be able to sustain some of those injuries. And so if you have to structure your team appropriately to do so. Oh, this is a good question. Do you have a particular team you find yourself interested in following? I do not. I haven't gone through. I have too many teams. And I haven't had a chance to go through yet this week. I've just been busy today, but I probably will try to maybe tomorrow or something and go through. But, it's probably some Mike Williams team. Mike Williams is, pretty much the league winner right now. I'm trying to think. It's probably some kind of hero running back team. I have a ton of Damian Williams, a ton of Samaje Perine. So this week was really big for that. I have a ton of Alexander Madison. So this week was, a lot of them. I got, knock on wood, I got lucky this week with some of the running back, like these backup running backs. Basically, part of my strategy was taking all these guys, Madison, Damian. Obviously, Darrington Evans was the ringleader, which hasn't worked, but taking all those guys, right? Chuba. So, like, I've been kind of lucky to be able to get weeks from all of these, late round running back. Okay, well, maybe now I have to take Damian. Good Lord, this is not a running back room, huh? Or this is not a wide receiver. Running back. Jesus. Getting late in the day. I'm going to take Damian Harris and Kenny G. Yeah, I saw the hyperextension, but not going to play this week. I'll take him, I guess. Yeah, I'm somewhere in like the 600 to 700 range. I'm not even sure how many. So it's hard, especially like I actually didn't max Best Ball Mania because I was at the, like, you start to run out of time at the end of draft season. And I did like 110 of my Best Ball Mania drafts, like before training camp. And just knowing what the draft market was on Underdog at that time, I kind of wanted to just stick with, I wanted my BBM teams to be like that subset of pre-training camp teams, early summer teams where, like, I obviously have a lot of injuries and stuff on those teams, Akers, ETN, whatever. But I wanted those teams to be like, I didn't want to be drafting in the most efficient draft market into BBM when I know what super teams are out there. So but I did not feel that way on DraftKings. So I focused leading up to, season starting on DraftKings actually. And it is an absolute nightmare to try to track your teams on there. So it's a little difficult. Underdog, obviously it's a little bit better. So that's the hardest part. Is I would love to have a little bit better insight into my DraftKings, into my overall portfolio. I know that DraftKings so far is going really well based on just looking through my, live contest page or whatever, but it's just tougher. It's much tougher to, I think I maxed I maxed the $3 like in the first like week that it was open, and then I have the Millie, the $20 max on DraftKings. I think they had a $5 I think I maxed, and then I did not get to max the $6, but I have a lot in the $6. So it's a lot of freaking drafts, to go through on DraftKings, and it's really impossible to get a true gauge of, I tried to keep a spreadsheet of most of my teams, and at the end, it was difficult to keep that up to date. So it's a kind of a mess. I'm drafting the all injured team here: Damian Harris, Dalvin, and Kenny G and Kittle. Probably a little bit too much on the injury front. Maybe I should have paid attention to that. Word to the wise: don't draft every single player on your team being injured. But I do. It's such a tricky balance between like, these guys are the best values to me compared to, okay, I do need enough scoring to start this contest out in weeks 6 and 7. It's a delicate balance. I really feel like it. The positive is I'm only going to take 4 running backs here. And it looks like Damian Harris is fine. Look that up really quick. Avoided serious injury. I saw that. But they haven't given us a true update. So we could be in trouble if some of these injuries don't shake out my way. But like I said, luckily, Cole Beasley, I like that. Tim Patrick, I think, is next on. I cannot take Landry because I cannot do. This team cannot afford another injured player. Do I have Parker or do I have? Sorry, trying to check the old ranks. The question is definitely going to be what's Devontae Parker's health looking like? I just cannot afford to have another injury here. So we're going to go Tim Patrick. Painful. I do also like Devontae Parker, but I guess that's another interesting part of drafting at this time is like, we don't have all the injury news yet. We know like who got hurt or who is hurt, but the severity of almost all these injuries is totally unknown right now, right? Like I'm looking at Devontae Parker, and it also is funny, like it was a late hamstring thing. We have no idea what that means. He's valuable to me in these drafts because Fuller is out to start. The passing game is kind of a disaster. They were a disaster last week without Parker. The week before, Parker got a ton of targets, and it's like, he's valuable, but what's this injury? Same thing with Damian Harris. I actually am pretty bullish on Damian Harris without James White. I think it just creates a real ceiling for Damian Harris. But they say avoided serious injury, but what does that mean? You could avoid serious injury and be out a month. Very, very interesting. I wonder if, a couple of my guys are getting steamed at tight end here, it looks like. Trying to look at these rankings. I got to do a few more of these drafts. The uncomfortability of these ADPs and trying to map out how to put your team together is brutal. Absolutely brutal. I do find it interesting. Quarterbacks don't seem to be going off quite as quickly in this one. I do think that it may be just like the top few guys, at quarterback are really, really steamy. Lamar, Herbert, Kyler. But in the first few of these drafts that I did, quarterback was actually you could get locked out of quarterback really easily. So it's interesting to me that has not been the case here in this one. Obviously, I got Dak, around cost, a little bit after cost, and then I know Daniel Jones has a concussion and Fields hasn't exactly looked good. Blah blah blah. Neither has Lawrence, but it is interesting to me that a lot of these quarterbacks are falling past ADP. See, like Devontae Booker, Saquon is not going to be out forever. It's Saquon, so maybe he gets hurt again. And his ankle did look pretty gnarly, but they're basically saying that like they're not that worried about him. I'm sure he'll miss this week, but they're like not that worried about him, which is kind of crazy. I also like Sony. Sony at 149 is nice. Like Sony's got to be one of the best handcuffs like left now. Outside of the obviously the Madisons and so like Madison's the best handcuff, right? I think it's Pollard and Madison are just like smash handcuffs. But like is Sony next? It's like we saw Chuba isn't quite the absolute stone cold nuts like we saw before. So Sony is probably the next best handcuff. And getting him in the 140s, almost 150s is pretty nice. I say this quarterback thing. I say, oh, look, I'm going to be able to get a good quarterback too because they're all falling. And then they all go, literally all of them. I guess I don't need Daniel Jones a ton. And so since I have Kenny G, I could take yet another injured player. Let's look at tight end real quick. I am going to take Daniel Jones. And then we're going to double stack Daniel Jones with Evan Ingram. Yeah, I agree. Looking forward to the next two games for Fields because Nagy has not been interested in opening things up for Fields, right? You had to completely thread the needle on the perfect game for Fields to have an upside game the way that Nagy is playing, right? So they play the Lions, and Fields is awesome. 17 pass attempts, like 200 and whatever yards, 30 yards, or however many yards it was. He was awesome. I mean, he played awesome. It's the Lions. They suck. Everybody lights them up. But he played awesome, objectively. And the problem was he played awesome. The Lions could never score when they got to the red zone like 5 times in the first 3 quarters and scored 0 points. Not even just like didn't score a touchdown. They didn't score a point. So they just never put the pressure on Nagy to push, to keep the foot on the gas with Fields. So Montgomery goes ham. Damian Williams goes ham. Then this week, pretty much the same thing. They were just able to run and run and run because the Raiders never scored, never made them push the tempo. Now you're going to run. You're not going to be able to win doing what Nagy's doing. So I think these will be the couple of weeks where we'll see, we don't need like huge monster ceiling games, but we do need like a glimpse of hope into what could be some ceiling for Fields. I think, it's kind of like it was similar to what we saw with Lance the last 2 weeks, where he's not playing very well as a real life passing quarterback, but we saw everything we wanted to see in terms of his ceiling. Right, his first half coming in for Jimmy G. In the second half, he scored 20 fantasy points. Last week, he scored 15 despite no touchdowns. Right, gets stuffed at the one. Doesn't throw any passing touchdowns. He had opportunities to put up a monster game, and he just didn't. Now he's banged up. They got to bye. They might go back to Jimmy G. So It's very unfortunate for Lance, but we have at least seen what we wanted to see from a potential ceiling. We haven't seen any of that with Fields. And maybe it's just not there. I don't know. I think it is, but I don't know. So I agree. I think it's going to be make or break time here in a couple weeks for Fields in terms of his true upside. Poor Juju. I did move James Washington up a good bit. I think James Washington makes for a pretty interesting target in these drafts, kind of similar to like the Tim Patrick thing, where you're probably going to get some usable weeks out of James Washington without Juju. It's not super exciting, but it's a fantasy relevant player. I am kind of sad. My favorite, I took Ingram over my favorite, who I've been constantly talking about on these streams. My favorite late round tight end in these drafts, Dan Arnold, who led the Jaguars in targets on Sunday. I'm excited for Dan Arnold on these teams, but got backed into a little correlation there. No, I do not need quarterback. Not really worried about running back. Let's Aguilar, MVS. Nelson Aguilar. I just can't take another IR player. What's running back looking like? Man, RIP Rojo, by the way. Tough scene. I think I might take him, though. I know that sounds crazy. But if something happens to Lenny, now we're drafting Rojo as a freaking an early down handcuff. But I just think the touchdowns, like if something happens to Lenny or just maybe he finally earns some playing time in the 16th round on the high, one of the highest scoring offenses in the league as my last running back. As the people say, you can do worse, I think. This is like the all I don't feel good about these guys team. It's so funny. I got in trouble recently. Somebody said I need to show the board more. I hate showing the board. It's like an awful user experience. But this is kind of funny. JT, I guess people feel okay about now that he had the smash. He finally had the smash game this week, right? But people probably weren't feeling good about JT before. People are not feeling good about Dalvin. AJ Brown went from a 2-3 turn pick to a 3-4 turn pick. Amari, people probably feel okay. Dak, people feel okay. Kittle hurt, and people weren't feeling okay. Odell, yikes. Visca, yikes. Damian Harris, assuming he's healthy, I think people are all right. Kenny G, yikes. Beasley. Daniel Jones, again, assuming health, I think people are all right on that. But, I bring that up because that's kind of how I'm not saying you should draft just chasing all the injured guys. I think I might have overstepped a little on some injuries. But I kind of feel like we talked about this last time too. If you had to do, there's more nuance to it than this, but if you had two choices to draft all the guys who have performed well and have ADPs have risen, or draft all the guys who maybe haven't performed up to expectation and their ADPs have plummeted, you should just draft all of those guys because it has only been a month, basically been a month. And our expectations should not have changed that much. Somebody brought it up in the chat last stream that we did. I can't remember who it was, but basically said, I feel like you should just draft off of the rankings that you drafted off of from the preseason and you would be better off in these contests. And I totally agree. That's not what I'm doing. I do think we have to, make some updates, right? Obviously, guys are hurt. Things have changed. There are things that we do need to account for. But overall, that premise, I think is doing that as a reminder to just be if I just drafted this way, I'd probably just be better off. And that's how I do try to kind of think about these things. You have to balance some of the injury stuff, and that's probably my biggest struggle. But that's like my biggest lesson learned from all these. I like the teams. And so, this is obviously the first Underdog in-season contest, right? So we don't have any others. That's only been a few weeks, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. But I have my DraftKings in-season contest starting from week 2, and like they're actually a lot of them are doing really well because this has been my basic strategy. Just like buy the dip, just buy the dip on everybody. Even some injured guys, just buy the dip because the market is reacting crazy to everybody. Yeah, I don't know if it was Coakley or KZ. I think it was one of those two guys. But that has been, I think it was KZ. That has been something that has stuck in my head ever since. And I think it was such a good point. It really illustrated in like a super, super simple way. It really illustrated just kind of like how we should think about things. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. 2-4-8-2. I need wide receivers, but I need to think about if I should get okay, actually, Nico's not coming back in week 6 either. What about Traquan? I'm taking Nico. And I got to decide if I'm going to take a third tight end because of Kittle. This one is tricky. I am going to take Parham. Try to a little bit of a hedge, I know, on Kittle, but I feel like part of the benefit of Kittle is like he's just this hammer, you know what I mean? He's this playoff hammer in this format. You're taking him to like just survive in advance, and then you have this mega value elite tight end. And so I feel like having a little bit of extra firepower there can help you because Evan Ingram ain't going to cut it. We've seen enough from Evan Ingram over the course of the last few years. But interesting. This was an interesting one. Love your running backs. Little worried about your wide receivers, especially since some of them are hurt. So as this draft winds down, obviously this contest locks on Thursday. If you're looking to draft off of some new and updated in-season rankings, they're designed basically for this contest. I have those updated and posted on the site. And a friendly reminder that the playoff schedule is on there. We're just gonna pull this up. If you go to spikeweek.com, the in-season top 200, the in-season positional rankings, both up to date, plus a change log for every time I adjust something on the rankings. Change log will be here. If you want to look at the bye weeks in a cheat sheet, the bye week cheat sheet is still out there, and the playoff schedule cheat sheet is still out there. Still relevant things for this contest, and they are all out there on spikeweek.com. If you are interested in NBA stuff, got those updates out there for you too. Only one more week to draft in the NBA contest on both Underdog and on DraftKings. But I will be back tomorrow doing another resurrection draft. We're firing resurrection drafts until this puppy closes. 85% full, closes on Thursday. We got to get our in-season drafts. In there. So this is the place. If you're looking for in-season NFL content, we got you covered. Non-DFS, obviously, we got you covered. So thank you guys for hanging out. Check everything out on spikeweek.com. Make sure you sign up for the Discord. Also up here, you can join the Discord right here, totally free. And I will see you guys tomorrow for another resurrection draft on Underdog. Peace.